context of this discussion, we will refer to human resources as human and fiscal assets. The amount of quality of these resources is highly dependent on aid provided by the federal government. Federal support and funding are dependent on an institution's ability to quantify and demonstrate the rate of successful student learning outcomes with financial commitment of a college degree. We've discussed the importance of assessment heavily on this channel, but what are higher educational professors to do when it's difficult to measure and define the work that they do? Professors spend a lot of time and commitment on items that are hard to measure. For example, time spent in the classroom is easily quantifiable. However, it is nearly impossible to measure the time that's spent in offices doing research and other initiatives. Without being able to substantiate the faculty time, federal funding is decreased, which further decreases the faculty members' ability to be successful. If we look back to last week's discussion, we talked about how federal funding decreased for institutions and how it created an inability and dismay for faculty to conduct new research that further contributes to the field and study. Without funding to hire additional faculty, financing for research, and the ability to truly focus on implementing best practices, it's hard to get it done. Faculty do not have the time or the resources, and they're unable to make that impact on teaching and therefore learning outcomes. So moving on to fiscal resources, and for the purpose of this conversation, fiscal resources refers to monetary resources, money, as an example of how quickly changes can be made from having all of the fiscal resources that you need to being cut drastically. We can look at the 1988 University of Denver experience, where they suffered through the recession and had a dramatic downturn of support from the federal government. The financial crisis led to a decrease in funding, which led to administrations reappropriating any funding received from the government. The budget deficit was monumental, and important changes in how fiscal resources should be utilized were inevitable. Thoughtful considerations for a well-developed plan should aim to resolve the current crisis, as well as providing long-term planning through the creation of foundation and stability. So, how do we go about managing fiscal resources? There are methods that can be used to financially assist in decreasing negative financial impacts to the institution's core and mission, meaning classroom instruction, learning administrative support services, and institutional goals. Some of the strategies provided in Middaugh's book for achieving long-term financial stability include the following. Limit unnecessary hiring through a rebalance of positions. As people retire or resign, do not replace those positions. For example, in Middaugh's text, Planning and Assessment in Higher Education, he discusses the practice of replacing tenured faculty with contract professors. These contract professors are hired strictly to teach without any opportunities for research or the ability to work towards tenure. In cutting this institutional cost, faculty retire or resign, the contract professors then take their place. Though this may save some money within the institution, it doesn't help with faculty and student learning. These professors are often not as committed, and they don't have the opportunity to become as engaged and intentional in the work because of their limitations. Other options on limiting the fiscal resources is eliminating unnecessary outsourced services. If the institution is funding an area or a resource that isn't critical to the foundation and mission of the college, the institution should try to conduct that work on their own as opposed to outsourcing to other vendors. Examples of these could be bookstores, dining services, medical clinics, things like that. If at all possible, the university should manage these services, and the institution should make attempts to negotiate this option with outsourced vendors. Most entities have already went paperless, but there are many that do not. I myself am currently working at a site where I am shredding and going through materials from 2010. Definitely past date of going to paperless. Fiscal resource and allocations should be transparent to all departments, employees, and other constituents. Creating assessment and reallocation of fiscal resources should be consistent with the institutional message and the model. Pardon me. So, putting all of these elements together can demonstrate just how fiscal resources impact institutional effectiveness. Without adequate funding, administration must conduct a deep dive to decipher what is necessary and what can be done differently to effectively meet the needs and goals of the institution. When staff and funding are at insufficient rates, professors do not have the human resources that they need to utilize best practices to provide the best learning opportunities for students. Valuable human and fiscal resources create opportunities for faculty to conduct and fund original research. This provides their faculty with necessary support to become users of best practices who make a valuable contribution to the institution and the learning of students. Like any other business, collegiate institutions must adapt processes. As funding decreases and operational costs increase, changes are implemented and the quality of the program suffers. There are several tactics that are recommended to make cuts as efficiently as possible. However, it may be very difficult to provide the same components of each program if budgets are reconfigured, faculty hours are cut, and prior services are no longer available. Thank you for taking the time to watch this week's channel. I truly appreciate your continuous support. Please don't forget to like, share, and follow for more hot topics in higher education.